Jessica, what is your dream? What do you want to do? I swallow hard, and without hesitation, I say, I want to be a motivation. Okay, what type of people are you going to reach? Every great speaker has a story. And that's when I hesitate. It's been over 13 years since the first assault, and those words have never even left my mouth until now. I was afraid for a long time, and I was in denial because it's something you see on movies or on TV, but could it really happen to me? It was a basic checkup with a doctor. He insisted that I get undressed to make sure he can run accurate tests. Well, his so-called tests were invasive, and something was off because his hands were bare and he had the sickening, unforgettable stare. I'll spare you the full details, but just so you know, his hands trailed everywhere. My purity invaded, and I was left paralyzed and scared. It was just supposed to be a doctor checkup to see my growth, and it turned into a pedophile taking advantage of a youth unclothed. This was the time I was molested by a trusted man. By the time it was finally over, I was in tears, bent over, but he already came up with the perfect lie, and supposedly I was crying because he had told me I needed to lose weight, and apparently it hurt my feelings. When he muttered his lie, I sat there frozen. My little heart was broken, and I couldn't even tell my truth. At that moment, I started to change. Happiness turned into aggression. My parents were under the impression that I was just trying to cope with family stuff, reasonably so, and for whatever reason, I kept my secret shut and locked up. When I grew up, I became very impulsive. My behavior self-destructive so much that I had decided that I should end my life on multiple occasions. And after that was spoken, I was medicated because I was severely depressed, anxious. I was developing ADD and bipolar. All that medication made me feel like a zombie, so I ditched it and dealt with the suffering myself. I graduated high school and hoped that the Bible college I picked would help. When I attended that school, I didn't even know who I was because I pretended to be someone else. When we broke into our small groups to share our testimonies, I talked about other struggles and made it a point to say I had never been sexually abused because that was a part of me I wish wasn't true. The worst part is, I wrongfully judged the people who went through the exact same thing. I agreed with the people that said, you know, did you really mean no? Were the clothes you wearing a dead giveaway? Couldn't you just push them off? How does it happen multiple times? Can't you just learn from the last? Was it wrong time, wrong place? You must have wanted it. And for that, I want to say I'm sorry. Though it did happen to me, I stayed in denial for years and judged people. And under no circumstance do I condone my words, but the bottom line was, I still blame myself for it happening. So I guess I felt the need to blame others as well. Later on, school let out for a seasonal break, and I met a seemingly good Christian family man, and we talked every day for a couple of weeks. He asked me to come watch a movie at his place, and they said, if you want to get married, you have to go on a date. And he was a good Christian family man, supposedly. That night, we were just supposed to watch a movie, but I left that home with scars and bruising. My boundaries were mentioned. He even knew a tad bit of what happened to me as a kid. Was that some leeway to take advantage? I sensed some tension and tried leaving, but within moments, seconds, my boundaries were disrespected, and there was a grip at my arms, and after saying please no a few times in a row, all of a sudden, my mind and body were disconnected. It's like a light went out in my brain. I said no, and then I lost all my strength. I was in this situation again. I was paralyzed again, but this time it was worse than before. While I was held down, he looked me in the eye, so I closed my eyes, pretending like this wasn't happening. And when he finally let me go, I drove in silence, and when I got home, I threw away my unwanted, blood-stained clothes, then hit the floor crying. Years before, I had dealt with suicide and mental illness, but after this time, everything was amplified because I was dead inside. 2 days after it happened, I attended my classes and acted like nothing happened. I replayed that night over and over and over, trying to pinpoint what I did wrong. I was wearing modest clothing. Maybe wearing a sweater and shorts were the wrong choice. Maybe. Should I? What? No, I don't know. Here I was blaming myself for something I begged to stop. I couldn't maintain any healthy relationships after this. I had a double life that I never spoke about. I lost a lot of my friends because I was broken, and they had no idea. I didn't really want to be a Christian anymore. That man was a Christian, and he did that to me, and I was a Christian, and I didn't understand why it had to happen to me. So I became an addition to the statistics, addition to the sexual assault statistics, and started addiction. I gained some new friends, but lost lifelong bonds. I couldn't cope with the pain. I was unstable. First, I drank and drank and drank my pain away before it was even legal for me to drink. Alone in my room, I would finish bottles and throw up in the sink. As time went on, I would become so angry and punch pavement till blood left my body. It wasn't enough to numb my suffering. I found some old painkillers from a past surgery and finished the bottle, but the bottle didn't finish me. I just got high. But that numbed my pain. So then, drugs became my vice. They overcame me. Once every couple days became multiple times daily. The addiction was more than substance. It was addicted to the feeling. No, not the feeling. It was addiction to being numb. When I drove my brain to what seemed to be cloud nine, the tormenting voices from the times I was molested and raped just went away. And that's all I wanted. If you too have been through this, you know what I mean. You just wanted to stop. But it got to the point I would mix whatever drug I took in hopes I wouldn't wake up. Whenever I looked in the mirror, I hated every single thing about myself. I didn't feel like I deserved anything. The inner demons seemed to overtake me, and self-hatred overcame me daily. I had it. When cutting myself, overdosing on any drug, and suffocating my breath did nothing, I drove to a tall building. I looked over the edge and talked to God once more and said, I'm sorry for the choices I've made. And something happened in that moment. God left the 99 and sent someone to save my life. I was face to face with the devil on multiple occasions, but God saved me at just the right time. We all have questions like, why would he let all of that stuff happen? Yet we forget that we live in a fallen world and the devil is also real. And I promise you, I would not be here if it weren't for God and his angels and my mother's prayers. And I wanted to share my story because freedom finally won in my life. I'm not ashamed of what happened to me, and I'm not ashamed where my trauma led me. I have longed to be brave enough to share this story so that others can too. And if it still pains you, no worries. We will stand together and be each other's voices. And I wanted to say to the survivors, I want to let you know the assault was not your fault. And I know life has been hard, but I want to tell you there is a way out of constant pain. You can't buy it, it can't be won, because it already has been bought, won, and given freely. It's love that comes from a man that sacrificed his life to save mine and yours. His name is Jesus. The world is fallen and the Bible says we will face hard times, but that's why he sent Jesus as the ultimate sacrifice. This is not the end, it's the beginning. It can be the beginning of a new life with him. The one who is and is to come, the one who came and saved the one can save you too. And finally, a message to my fellow Christians. Please stop judging the weak. Please stop judging people who suffer with addiction. We are called to be the hands and feet. Please be like Jesus with the woman committing adultery. He didn't look at her and persecute her. He said, he who has not sinned cast the first stone. Instead of judging choices, Take time to learn their stories. The why represent the true light and the true love of Jesus. That is what's going to save lives.